I'm Scott L. Miller. It's the 12th of June, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua, and today we're going to be talking about why Netflix and video games and Dungeons and Dragons are the perfect things to lead you to want to live in Nicaragua. Seem like an odd combination of things? Absolutely. We're going to talk about that right after the bump.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know,
So you may think if the things that you're into are watching Netflix or Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, whatever, or playing Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Star Wars RPG, tabletop gaming, whatever, where you're really into video games, whether it's, Call of Duty or Mass Effect or Dragon Age or hidden object games, doesn't matter. You may think, why would Nicaragua be good for that? And maybe that I'm into those things actually makes Nicaragua a bad choice for me. Well, there's reasons why you might think that, but I think it's worth investigating why this is the perfect place if those are your activities. Maybe not the perfect place, but a really good choice. When we come here, so many people talk about the great outdoor living. I mean, it's fantastic. Look how beautiful it is. I'm standing outside. I love being outside here. We're constantly talking about the outdoor activities that we can do when in Nicaragua, whether it's sitting on the beach or going out and hearing a band, getting live music, all of these things that we think of as Nicaragua entertainment, which Nicaragua's own entertainment focuses very heavily on being outside and fresh air and often getting up and moving around, surfing, dancing, whatever. That is very much the Nicaragua culture. And of course, if you want to experience Nicaragua like a Nicaraguan, these are things you're going to want to really consider doing because so much of society does them. And it's an important part of life. And when you move here, you'll probably find that you're more interested in those things than you thought you were when you first came. It tends to grow on you. But moving past that and saying you already know you like playing video games, you already know you want a D&D group, you already have some series on Netflix that you want to spend time watching, you may say, well, I don't need all this beautiful outdoor, I don't need this great weather, I don't need all these safety of Nicaragua. I can stay in my South Chicago apartment, lock myself in a small room, feel safe, order a pizza, and play games at home already in the US or Canada or wherever. Why do I need to move to Nicaragua? That's not really the point. The point is you can take something you can already do and make it better. For many of us, right, the perspective of moving to a place like Nicaragua is, how do I discover all the great things that Nicaragua has to offer? But that's not for everybody. There are a lot of people, whether it's the things that they want to do or it's simply aspects of our lives that we don't want to give up, that we often overlook because when we talk about Nicaragua or Honduras or El Salvador or Panama, we're going to not focus on these things at all, right? No one's going to say, come to Panama, our Netflix is great, right? It doesn't make any sense. No one's going to move because they can watch Netflix there. They're moving for all the things that Panama has to offer, and then the question comes up, can I still watch Netflix? Yes, of course you can. So why do these things and many things like them end up being great reasons to actually put Nicaragua on your radar? Well, let's look. First, most of these, including even tabletop gaming from time to time, benefit from good internet. And Nicaragua generally has better internet even than the US, definitely better than Canada in most cases, and wallops most of Latin America. The internet access here is excellent. You can find pockets better in the United States for sure, but you can't find an average that's as good, and you can almost never find it good where other factors will compete with Nicaragua. So the combination is also partially what's important, but that you can broadly get really good internet access nearly anywhere in Nicaragua is a significant factor, because that means you can watch Netflix without a problem. You can play tabletop gaming online and have those digital experiences, no problem. You can do online gaming, you can use Steam, all those things, no problem, because you have excellent internet access. So that first thing is just, it doesn't rule anything out like people often assume. People often have this feeling like, well, I'm going to be far away, therefore my internet's not good. And that's anything but the case. Getting away from the United States and Canada, where internet is so traditionally bad, and getting to places where it's generally good, actually enhances a lot of those things. And it means that, sure, you could still live in a city like you needed to in the US to have good internet, but you can also live in the suburbs. You can also live in the country. You could go live on a farmhouse. You can find a place that you like to live. You have a bit more flexibility. And that includes, yes, you could go get a city apartment. You could go get that tiny little apartment and do nothing but hunker down, you know, put blackout shades over the windows and have your little tiny cavern where you play video games or watch movies. You can do that, of course. Or you can live out in the country and just have a little room for it. Okay, I've got to take the video. The dog is hidden in the clover. This is amazing. Sorry for swinging the camera around. I hope you can see him pretty well there. He is so adorable, hiding in the clover. Look at this dog. Oh my gosh. Look at you. Okay, sorry for that interruption. He's just too adorable. I couldn't handle it. So you can do all those things. You can live anywhere you want and add, whoa, sorry, I just let the tripod go and it freaked out. You can go live in any scenario that makes sense because it's all affordable. Whatever you're paying for an apartment in the US, you could get an apartment, a house, suburban, a farmhouse, a city apartment, whatever, here in Nicaragua. So it gives you even more power for your video games or Netflix or whatever. Overall, Nicaragua gives you a lower cost of living by dramatically so, right? Not a margin. And it gives you a margin of greater safety. It's not dramatically safer than the US and Canada, but it is safer than the US, and right now maybe not safer than Canada, but in the same ballpark. Incredibly safe. And we have luxury features that match the US and Canada. Like in the US, you may use Uber Eats to have your food brought, and here you can use Pedidos Ya, which we did today, for example. And that means that you can sit down and do your activities and just order in food. We order in smoothies. Every time we're playing Dungeons and Dragons, we order delivered smoothies, and it's fantastic. You can order delivered coffee, you can order pizza or a complete dinner, fancy or basic, whatever makes sense. And orders can be tiny. I just ordered a single Subway sub, and it's way over the limits that they talk about for doing delivery. No problem at all. Having these flexibilities, just like you have in the US, while they should be obvious and they're not reasons to drive you to Nicaragua specifically, it's important to note that these luxuries are not things you're giving up. If you've watched my videos, you know I also tend to talk about having staff, whether it's a cook or a maid or whatever. And this, if it's something that you're interested in, if it's something that you financially qualify for, meaning you have enough excess income to be able to afford it, which almost anyone who's giving up a US apartment to move here is going to, right? You can do this all within the budget you currently have. Then that may aid in all of these things as well. Less time that you need to clean, less time that you need to cook. And speaking of, my Pedidos Ya just arrived. That was very apropos timing that Pedidos Ya arrived right as I said that. So my point is that by lowering your cost and by providing all the things that you're used to and potentially offering a few amenities that you can't realistically have in the US or Canada, Nicaragua already puts itself ahead of those locations because you can do everything you could do but cheaper. The fact that you can also easily go to the beach, go to the mountains, go to the city, and just do anything else, any other activities are also lower cost and more accessible, that's just bonus. That you live where it's easy to travel other places, bonus. All the reasons you normally consider Nicaragua are literally bonuses instead of the driving factors. But that you can do the things you always wanted to do better is the bigger deal. And of course that lower cost applies to everything, even our air conditioning here, which people often complain about being so expensive. When you compare it to the cost of air conditioning in the United States, we routinely find it to be cheaper, potentially a lot cheaper. That means if you want to have your friends over for Dungeons and Dragons and you're going to put beers around the table and you're going to eat a lot of food, that you have cheaper food, cheaper beer, cheaper air conditioning, and you can do everything just like you did in the United States, assuming your friends are here, or you find friends here like we have, and play Dungeons and Dragons. You can do that in that sealed off air conditioned room just like you did in the US, but you're doing it for cheaper, you're doing it for easier, you're doing it with more amenities. But you also may want to do it outside, which maybe you didn't want to do in the US. So many things are outside here. That's what we do. We're playing D&D outside every time we play. That's how we do it. All of these things are just better and better and better. The lower cost for everything means you either have less work to be able to afford the things you want to do, or you can afford more of them, or possibly both. Now, there's another factor to consider. Yes, you can still bring your Netflix with you. You can bring your Amazon Prime with you. You can bring your D&D books with you. You can keep your Roll20 subscription. All of that stuff, you can keep doing exactly the same. Whereas really dramatically different is if you're a video gamer. Now, if you use Steam or GOG or something like that, you may or may not be used to that they have regional pricing. For Steam, this is a little bit more complicated. A lot of you may be Steam gamers, and things like Steam and GOG and Epic and Origins make moving and living abroad perfect for video gaming because you still have access to your libraries. You still have all of that power and all of that availability of digital downloads, but you can put it on a PC, you can put it on a laptop, you can put it on a Steam Deck, whatever. You have all these options to get your games down here, to buy games from down here. What's really cool with Steam, once you establish a bank account here in Nicaragua and start buying your games with that bank account, they will switch you to paying Nicaraguan prices instead of US prices. I've not yet done this, so I do not know how much of a discount that would be. There's a way to look it up, but I don't know and I haven't done it. But it will save money. It's something that's worth doing, and it's my number one thing driving me to want a bank account here. If you're on GOG, they do it differently. They do it based on where your machines are, like most of the time or something of that nature. And so because I am based in Nicaragua, they have detected me years ago as being in Nicaragua, and I now pay Nicaraguan prices for the same video games I was buying. The same ones are on my wish list when I lived in the United States. In some cases, that can be as little as 10% the cost of the game back home. For AAA titles, for brand new things, it tends to be like 20 to 30% discount. For older games, it can be that to something pretty dramatic like 90% off. The bottom line is I get so many more games for the same amount of money. I'm so much more willing and able to buy games, not just because I have so much more money by living in a place that's so much cheaper, but the actual cost of acquiring games is a fraction of what it was back home. That means I have way more money to spend way less. It's amazing. So our video game catalogs have exploded. We're much more likely to buy games on a whim. We have much more flexibility in buying them before, and so it's really fantastic. And that's just going to increase as we eventually get Steam on that discount as well. Those kinds of things are things that you never think about. Now, if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars and you don't care about the money at all, these factors are just going to be, well, it's a break even, right? Yeah, you're going to save money, but you don't care. Yeah, it's all these things. It's about putting all the bonuses together. But if you're like normal people and have some kind of budget and aren't just looking to spend, then by coming to Nicaragua, you can do the same things you would do in the US for much less, whether it's paying fewer taxes, spending less on rent, spending less on food, spending less on your video games, or it's that you have more flexibility and more things that you can do and you can hire more people or whatever. Your money is going to go farther by putting all of these things together. It's so many factors that all come together to mean you have more time and more resources for doing the activities that you liked to do in the United States. That's amazing, right? If you could only play 8 hours a week of video games because you're so tired from work, well, here, you're not going to have to commute. Here, you're going to make more in less time. You're going to give yourself more time to play those video games, or you're going to hire someone to do things for you so that you have more time or whatever. However you make it work, you simply have more resources in every area. That's the most important thing. This isn't a trade-off. There isn't a, well, I'm going to pay more for this thing but less for this thing, and depending on what I do, it's going to work out in my favor. No. It's all in your favor. It's not 100% true. Buying and fixing computers that we talked about in yesterday's video is more expensive here. If you want to get a video game computer here, yeah, you're going to spend a little bit more, but they're very background prices. The amount that you save in other areas so dramatically outweighs that you really can discount it. And if you're not buying big, I went through this yesterday, right? If you're buying big video game machines, you're bringing in a PS5, yeah, you're probably going to pay some extra. But if you're just bringing in a Steam Deck or something like that, you will pay the same. And so there's many of us are not paying extra for our video games, and the games being cheaper means we're actually paying less just across the board. At this point, yes, if I was living in the US full time, I would probably buy bigger and more expensive video game equipment than I have here. Because I'm living here, I don't bother and I make do with slightly older stuff, and I'm shifting towards the Steam Decks for almost all of our gaming. I'm making some adjustments to get more for my money and have a better overall experience, tuning my decision making based on where I am. That is true. But if my priority was having that really expensive Steam computer, I have so much more money to buy it with, by thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And the amount that I would have to pay extra because of taxes is a maybe and only a few $100s. And so it's quite the dramatic trade-off that you really don't have to consider. But essentially, for all intents and purposes, we're not talking about trade-offs. We are talking about an unbelievable slam dunk. Nicaragua gives you every single aspect of your financial and chronological, your time availability for things. Maybe it's only equal, maybe it's a little bit better, maybe it's a lot better, but it's always equal or better. There's no aspect where you're going to take a hit and say, oh, it's so expensive to use Netflix here. Oh, it's so hard to play video games here. Oh, it's so hard to order food when I'm busy and into a game and I just want a pizza to arrive. No, all those things are easier. Being able to get a cheap pizza delivered fast for next to nothing from Pedidos Ya, that's amazing. Where in the United States are you going to order an $8 pizza and have it delivered for $1 and be there in 45 minutes and have it be absolutely delicious? Nowhere. That's not going to happen. Here, it's an everyday thing. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to help support the channel, help me buy some video games and get Pedidos Ya to bring me a pizza, you can buy me a coffee at the link that I'll put up above, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. Remember to post on social media, tell your friends about the show, and I will see all of you tomorrow.